inspirational story to share. And one of the things that I think Hamzat's story will make very interesting is the use of technology and how we could use technology to fight corruption. And we've all been talking about, over the last 2 days, the need for us to also build a collective citizen and policy around engaging on anti-corruption issues. So we look forward to that. But before we start, it's been a long day, and we're all a bit probably tired. I'll kindly ask you, in the spirit of the African governance architecture, to put your hand up and stretch if you believe in transparency. If you don't, you believe in corruption. All right, that's it. Thank you very much, and let's get the conversation going. Hamzat, I want us to talk about you and your passions and interests. So tell us, what do you prefer, chicken or fish?
Oh, well, thank you so much. Definitely chicken.
Okay. Football or basketball?
Definitely football.
Apple phones or Android?
Both of them.
Both of them. Okay. But more seriously, as a person, what motivated you to start your work on transparency and accountability issues?
Well, thank you so much. My name is Hamzat Lawal, but call me Hamzi, so let's have an informal conversation. For me, it's about not complaining. You see, my generation have been blessed with technology. Today, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're engaging on WhatsApp. But rather than complaining, for me, I felt that this is a platform where I can use to amplify voices and connect government to what is obtainable at the grassroots. And I'll tell you a short story, if you allow me.
Go ahead.
Thank you. In 2010, there was a lead poisoning outbreak in northern Nigeria. To be specific, Zamfara State. It was reported that that was the worst ever humanitarian crisis that killed over 400 children below 5 years due to artisanal mining. At that time, my government called it illegal mining. We had emergency response from World Bank, from UNICEF, even from the federal government. Millions of dollars was released to this community. 2 years after, the curious me went to the Ministry of Mines and Solid Minerals and asked, what has happened for the past 2 years with the resources that was released? I was told to go to the Ministry of Health. I went to the Ministry of Health and I said, what happened with this money 2 years ago? No one could really provide an answer to me. So I got on a bus going to Zamfara State, and maybe I put this into context. From Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria, to Zamfara is 8 hours by road. I got on a bus going to Zamfara. At that time, I didn't know anyone from that state. So I got to Gusau, and interacting with the people, they told me that I would still have to travel another 7 hours to access this grassroots community. So first I took another bus that took me 3 hours. And when I got to Anka, I was told, well, there is no pathway to this community. You have to go on a camel or a motorbike. So I took a motorbike and we rode for 4 hours. I got to this community and I was shocked. I was shocked because not a single cent of that money got to this community. But the beauty of my generation is I have a mobile phone. I have data. So all I did was I took pictures. I documented the voices of these people, asking them simple questions. How have this affected your community? Do you have access to drinking water? Are your kids going to school? Do you have a primary health care centers? Do you have doctors, nurses, midwives? And then I came back to Abuja and I called my friends and we created a hashtag. Because on Twitter, if you want an issue to trend and if you want to document issues on social media, you have to create a hashtag. So we created a hashtag and we tied this hashtag to this community. The name of the community was Bagega. And so you know, I found out firsthand that over 700 children actually died. So the media underreported it. So we created a hashtag called Save Bagega. And for us, our campaign message was 1,500 children's life was at stake, and the government needed to take action. And then we started putting up those information. And the information we're putting up were pictures and the videos we took in the community. All we were just doing is using this platform to amplify their voices. In less than 24 hours, we started trending on Twitter. Interestingly, BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera started picking the story from Twitter. And then the local and national newspaper and TV station started using our story. And in less than 48 hours, the then president convened a press conference and signed the sum of $5.3 million that was needed for healthcare intervention. We were quite excited that our campaign have succeeded. But then we got to understand that there's difference between approval, release, and utilization. And mind you, 2 years ago, this money got missing. And of course, I need to pause and acknowledge some people who helped this campaign. And one of them is actually amongst the audience. Omojua, is Omojua here?
Omojua,
fantastic, Omojua. He was very instrumental in that campaign. So 1 week afterwards, the money was not released by the Ministry of Finance. 2 weeks down the line, no news. And then Omojua sponsored an article. He wrote an article, and I vividly remember the title of the article is Minister of Finance Disrespect Presidential Order. And it made headline news immediately. And before you know it, this money was disbursed. But what was really exciting for me was the fact that every now and then that we visit this community back and forth, we always go back to give the communities information and update of what the government is saying. And in between that, we organized what we call Rural Town Hall Meeting, where we bring everyone together in this community under the community mango tree. And sometimes the government people actually attend. And I'll share one impact that happened. So on the first day that they were cleaning up the environment, the Ministry of Environment engaged local workers from the community. They were meant to pay them daily 2,500. On the first day, they paid them 1,500. And interestingly, Follow the Money was not on ground that day. So they gathered themselves in the evening and said, according to the information Follow the Money gave us, we're meant to be paid 2,500. Why is this Oga giving us 1,500? So they called the Oga and told the Oga that during one of our conversations with Follow the Money and with the budget that was provided, you're meant to pay us 2,500. Why are you giving us 1,500? And the man was taken unaware because he didn't know this community were empowered with information. And in no time, he balanced them 1,000 naira. And what this shows is if community members have access to information, that alone is an incentive for them to increase demand and ensure that public funds are used for public good.
Thank you, Hamzy. Thank you, Hamzy. So, for that very interesting experience. So you obviously took this initiative and decided to formalize it. What exactly does Follow the Money and Code do?
So Follow the Money tries to answer where funds are coming from, where they're going to, but most importantly, how impactful these funds are to the lives of the people at the grassroots. And for us, we follow both international aid money and federal government, local and state government budget. And in doing this, we empower communities with access to information to hold their governments accountable using technology tools. And maybe just to share another story to simplify this very fancy explanation. In early this year, we started Follow the Money in Kenya and the Gambia. And in Kenya, interestingly, for the past 10 years, 30 million Kenyan shillings was budgeted for a particular slum community. And to put this into perspective, that's about $30,000. And the name of this community is Mukuru Slum. It has a population of 600,000 people. And from our findings, women actually give birth on the floor in their primary health care center. That has a budget line for the past 10 years. Interestingly, our colleagues were able to lay their hands on the 2018 budget. And they found out that there is another 30 million for this community. So then they wondered, for the past 10 years, this money have been budgeted and released, but no single drop have gotten to this community. So they created a WhatsApp group. In this group, they added the health secretary of the county and some officials from the Ministry of Health at the national government. And then they engage them and say, we're able to access the budget, and we found out that there's a 30 million shillings for our slum community. Where is the money? Interestingly, just last week, 1 million shillings have just been released for this primary health care center. And now women no longer give birth on the floor. But now they're saying, where is the other 2 million shillings? And now they're also advocating using follow the money model to say, you need to upgrade this facility, documenting voices of women, and of course, taking pictures of children below 5 years who come to the hospital for vaccines, and using this as a case to advocate for government to increase the budget allocation, but particularly following through these releases and ensuring that this is used. And in the Gambia, my colleague Ma Nyang, and I would talk a bit about Ma. So Ma is this young guy who was instrumental to the democratic dispensation in the Gambia. And what Ma did before Adama Barrow won the election was, Ma would go on radio and tell young people, go out and register and come out on election day and cast your vote. At that time, Yahya Jammeh did not see Ma as a threat, because all he did was go and get registered, come out and vote. And afterwards, Ma was able to mobilize millions of young people who came out in masses and vote for Adama Barrow that brought a democratic government. But then afterwards, a lot of young people were now asking, what next? And then Ma started follow the money in the Gambia. And all he did was to ask Adama Barrow that the World Bank, the US government is giving you millions of dollars to strengthen democratic processes and institutions. How are you going to use this money? And Gambia is quite peculiar because they don't have access to information law, freedom of information law, like the case of Nigeria and Kenya. And then Ma kept traveling from one region to another region. And then he went back on radio and he told citizens, take pictures of your primary health care center that are dilapidated. Take pictures of schools that needs to be refurbished or equipped and put them on Twitter or Facebook with the hashtag follow the money so we can track. And some activists put up a picture of a dilapidated primary school where children were getting taught sitting on the floor. And then so what we do at Follow the Money is when we get this information, and now that with the advent of technology, there's a lot of fake news. So usually we don't run with information except we verify them. And for us, we travel to this community to get first-hand verification. So Ma and his colleagues traveled to this community and found out that that information was genuine. And then he reached out to the governor of the region. Interestingly, the governor, who is the policy maker, was not aware. So the governor reached out to the director of basic and secondary education, who now confirmed that the World Bank have just released a grant for basic education, so they can use some of that money to rehabilitate that school. But they did not give us specific how much they accessed from the World Bank, because there is no legal or institutional framework for us to access this information. But what we were able to do was to host a town hall meeting between the government people and the villagers to say that government now have money for your community, but they need your cooperation. And one thing that we achieved was the community donated a plot of land free of charge for government to come and invest that educational infrastructure. And for us, this goes a long way to see that when government puts in infrastructural development, no vandalization by the citizen, because they take ownership of this kind of intervention.
Thanks, Hamzy. this work is definitely interesting, but I also sense it's probably dangerous. Have there been any close calls that you faced in this journey?
Yes, interestingly, activists and campaigners like myself, we can advocate for issues that affect people, but when we're involved, we're usually helpless. And I'll tell you one quick story. In 2014, during one community town hall meeting, the director of this, in my country, we call them the State Security Service, which is the secret police. They came with an order from above to arrest me, that I am instigating young people against the government. So they came into this meeting and they were asking, who is Hamzat Lawal? You know, when you hear my name first, you would think I'm an older person who is very huge and tall. But he was disappointed that it was a young man who is very who cannot even harm, a little chicken. And then he said, well, I've been ordered to arrest you. And I asked, for what purpose? And he said, well, when you come to our office, you would know. But something unique happened. So the community people stood up, and they stood in front of me, and they said, Mr. Director, you cannot arrest Hamza. And at that moment, I was vulnerable because I could not even protect my own basic human right. But they stood in front of me and said, you cannot arrest Hamza because the work that Hamza does, without him, our community today would not have access to water or primary health care center. And his organization is giving us information that helps us to hold government to account. And over 50 people stood in front of me. And of course, the director came with only 4 people, so they could not arrest me and 50 other people. So then he had to place a call to whoever sent him to arrest me. And then they said, well, the arrests have been called off. But then I used that opportunity to invite him to stay for the meeting, because sometimes our security agents don't understand the work that we do. So I begged him and I said he should stay back and observe these proceedings. And he found it really fascinating and even contributed to our conversation. But then after the meeting, by the side, I asked him, Mr. Director, do you know about the Freedom of Information law? This is a senior government official. He has no idea that Nigeria has a Freedom of Information law. Again, I used that opportunity to educate him about the law and how the law empowers people like me and other civil society groups to hold government to account. And guess what? Today, this director is one of our advocates in the government.
Fantastic. Two quick things on your story. So Follow the Money utilizes technology, particularly social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, to gather this information. And the inherent risks in gathering information in these processes, and you mentioned that you verify that. What else do you do to make sure that the information you collect is genuine and it's credible?
For us, the most part of information we get is actually from government. Because first, we need to access government budget. Without that information, you cannot track. Even if you do a lot of advocacy, government intervention is usually planned and budgeted during the fiscal year. So when we lay our hands on this budget, in ground truthing, because most time again, government sometimes sits in their comfort zone and they don't understand what are the needs of or an aspiration of the people at the grassroots. So when we get government budget, we go to the community to ascertain that this intervention is what their yearnings are. And if it's not, we can then advocate to government to change it to what the needs of the people are, using the voices and data we gather from the grassroots. So we meet halfway with government. And after doing this, as much as we leverage using technology tool, and it's important I state this, over 95% of our work is offline. I can say that only 5% is what you see on Twitter and Facebook, because we go through a lot of process to ensure, and when I say process, traveling back and forth to communities, meeting with government people, meeting with private sector, because government give contracts using bidding process. So we also engage in that process to ensure that it's a transparent process where they don't give this contract to their cronies who inflates the price, and then you have abandoned projects. So it's a whole lot of process. And before we put out the output, we've gone through a 95% of check and balance and then give output, but also using offline radio. Today in Nigeria, over 80% of our population still access information via radio because of high cost of data and the fact that internet penetration is not that high in grassroots communities. So the first point where community members get information is via radio. So we leverage on radio to disseminate our information and also to get feedback when people call into the show.
Great. Let's package what you have and briefly open up the conversation to the audience. Do any of you have specific questions or comments for Hamzy? There's a hand there, Honorable Seja, and another one at the back. Do we have any hands on this side? And a hand there. So we'll take those 1, 2, 3, and 4 to start.
I am Sabina Seja, a member of the EU Advisory Board on Corruption, and I also work with the Anti-Corruption Authority in Tanzania. I would like to commend Hamzy and his team and the good work that they are doing. And this morning we have heard of taking the war against corruption to the public. I think this is one of the methods because the public can also participate in the fight against corruption and identify corruption loopholes and misappropriation of funds in these projects. And we, in Tanzania, I can share with you, we have adapted this in our anti-corruption.
Opportunity, Mr. Moderator. I am Menzi Nhlabati, coming from the Kingdom of Eswatini. I am a police officer stationed at the police headquarters under the CID training department. May I please first start by saying thank you so much to my brother Hamzat, for the work that you've done for the communities in Africa. My question is that what really, because I hear that you've also done work with Kenya, certain communities in Kenya and Uganda. Correct me if I'm wrong. But my question is, what triggers your interest in other countries except for Nigeria? Because I strongly feel that the Kingdom of Eswatini would really, really appreciate some help when it comes to following the money. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There was a hand towards the front here.
Thank you, moderator, and quite inspired by Hamza's work. But as I was listening on to the story of how you're using social media, I'm challenged because I'm 50 years plus, and during my time when we got angry of anything, we went on did a demonstration. Now Hamza and other young people, when they get angry, they don't go to do a demonstration, they go to the social media. And sometimes I'm persuaded that irrespective of the number of likes, the number of tweets that you do have, it might be difficult for you to get the change that you want. And as Hamza mentioned, there is a problem of internet penetration, and sometimes also the smartphone density in Africa is quite low. My question is, this is a very good initiative, but with that at the back of your mind, how can you replicate this in other parts of Nigeria and in other parts of Africa?
Thank you. There was a hand at the front here.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le modérateur. Je voudrais enchaîner directement avec le dernier intervenant en appréciant d'abord très sincèrement les efforts que Hamza Lawal est en train de fournir dans le village de Zamfara au Nigeria. Et c'est un exemple qui doit être dupliqué non seulement au Nigeria, mais aussi en Afrique. J'ai vu qu'il suit l'argent et je me suis dit qu'il est en train de mener un combat. Pour ceux qui sont un peu versés dans l'histoire de l'islam, Hamza est en train de se battre pour les couches déshéritées. Son homonyme en islam, Hamza, est un martyr de la guerre de Uhud. Son homonyme s'appelait le sabre de l'islam. Je transporte son action et je me réfère à Hamza qui se tenait devant le prophète pendant les guerres saintes. Donc je voudrais le remercier pour avoir suivi l'exemple de son homonyme et l'encourager à poursuivre ses efforts. Ensuite, à donner l'exemple aux autres pays africains pour que l'on puisse aller chercher l'argent, puisque nous parlons de corruption. On parlait de conscience collective tout à l'heure. Moi, j'ai fait une différence entre cette conscience collective et la conscience populaire, puisqu'il est très difficile de descendre en profondeur au sein des masses populaires. Quand nous parlons de conscience collective, moi, je parle de la conscience des élites seulement, puisque c'est à ce niveau que la corruption se déroule. Mais les effets sont ressentis jusque dans les profondeurs de nos populations, qui ne sont pas soignés, qui n'ont pas d'hôpitaux, qui n'ont pas d'école. Donc l'action de Hamza est à saluer. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much for the comment. Come back for another round later. Hamza, there were a couple of interesting questions there, and I would like to pick up or re-summarize one. It seems there's a lot of interest to replicate your story in a couple of other countries. What does a Follow the Money starter pack look like? What do you need? What are the tools to replicate your model in other countries?
Thank you so much. So it takes nothing. For me, what it takes is passion, sincere passion. Because I got on that bus, I wasn't thinking. You know, I just felt I could do something different. So I believe when we say we want to fight corruption, we just need to be sincere about it. You know, as government, as journalists, as activists, as civil society campaigners, all it takes is your smartphone, getting verifiable information, popularizing this information, and engaging communities with that information so they can hold government to account and add their voice to democratic governance process. And in trying to answer the first question, after our experience, now we invite the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offenses, which is ICPC. It's an anti-corruption agency in my country. And of course, a lot of you are also familiar with EFCC. So now, usually, when we have our town hall meeting with government, with the private sector, the contractor, and the community people, we invite them as observers. Because we're not indicting anyone. We're just saying, come and observe this proceeding. And it has helped us to reduce corruption. Because when they come, they will just introduce themselves and say, my name is this, I'm from this agency, and they won't say a word. They'll just take minutes of the meeting. So that has now made kept people in check that access public money. So now, because they know that, oh, EFCC is observing the proceedings, so I must ensure that I provide that service delivery to the people. And also, now in all the states, because Follow the Money is actually in the 36 states in Nigeria, we have visited all the commissioners of police. So we went for an advocacy visit to familiarize with them and tell them about our work, and also to get security reports. Because, like I said, we always go to communities where you don't even have mobile networks. So, but the police have data of crisis of this community, so they give us this report, so we're not caught up in between any crisis. So that has really helped enhance our work with the anti-corruption agencies. And in any case, when we find corrupt case, we write petitions to the EFCC and ICPC, and they take up our petition. Also, we petition the National Assembly, and most times they call for a public hearing, which is live streamed on national television, and get these government people or the private people to answer pertinent questions. What usually triggers our interest in other countries is following the money is a lot of work. So usually when we get interest from other young activists, then what we do is we go to the country and just transfer knowledge. So we build their capacity on how to use basic social media tools, how to better use their mobile phone in taking good pictures, how to take good videos so their voices are not in the video when they interview people in the grassroots, and how to post this information on that engage a comprehensive conversation, not antagonizing government or abusing government on Twitter or Facebook. So usually our interest is activated when we get people, you know, who show interest and say, we want to follow the money, how do you do it? And to be cost effective, if we don't have resources to go, we just do Skype call. That's why we use technology, so we can take you through a session in less than 2 hours. And for us, all we do is open source. So we have a work process that is open source, because we can't tell government to be open and we ourselves are not open. So everything we do is open source. So we document this on an open government Google Drive and share it with whoever wants to use or replicate our initiative. Well, before now, yes, activists go on the street and protest. But for us, we've never protested on the street. In short, our campaign, we would not call it a protest. We just call it a campaign that helps to amplify the voices of marginalized people who their voices are mostly not heard. And I would share one quick story that we didn't even use social media. So we went to a community that had a budget line in Gombe State. The name of the community is Jesu. And they had a 9.8 million under the state government budget, under the SDG program, to rehabilitate and provide vaccines for their primary health care center. When we got this information, we traveled to the community, and it took us about 12 hours to get to this community from Abuja. And then we asked them, are you aware that your primary health care center have a budget? They were not aware. We're the ones who broke the news to them. The next day, within themselves, they appointed a women leader, a youth leader. They got a man who drove the car. So they taxed themselves and fueled the car and drove to the secretariat of the government and met with the director of SDGs and say, Follow the Money told us yesterday that there's a budget for my community. Is it true? And if it's true, when are you going to come and use this money to rehabilitate? So we didn't even use Twitter. We just gave them information, and the next day they were already acting on their own. And in most cases, this happened to us when we run campaigns. So, and we found this really effective because, you know, we would never mobilize people to go on the street because we don't want to put anyone in harm's way and get them clash with government authority. But we believe that if we put out the right information, and we've never been engaged in any scandal because every information we put out are authentic. And government always take our word for it. When we put out information, they reach out to us and they even ask for advice on how to tackle the issue. So, and in the spirit of replicating Follow the Money, interestingly, ECOWAS just recently started a conversation with us, and they want to use their platform to take Follow the Money to all the ECOWAS countries, both the French-speaking countries. So now we're already in that conversation, and just 2 months ago, they brought together commissioners from the ECOWAS region, and I made a case about Follow the Money, and they're quite excited about it, and some of them are even writing me personally to bring me to their country to come and share this knowledge and experience. And what's really interesting is it's government officials now that are saying they won't follow the money, not even activists or civil society. Because they've also found out that government always want to look good. Politicians want to win election. And we're helping them use the money right so they can look good and keep winning elections.
All right, great. Let's take it back to the audience and have a couple of more questions. There's a hand at the back. There's a hand at the corner there. One there, and the hand at the front. I will kindly request you, keep your questions short in the interest of time. So we'll start. The lady at the back, please.
Thank you. My name is Jabu Pagati from the Kingdom of Eswatini. I work for the Anti-Corruption Commission. Thank you, Hamza, for the presentation. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant way of curbing corruption. Pardon me, I think I missed it. I'm just wondering how you actually fund this work, because it looks like there's a very, very much big work in terms of investigations before you can actually do something. So who funds it? How do you fund it? And the traveling seems to be a lot. I just need to get clarity there so that when we try to replicate, we know exactly what it takes. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. My sister towards the left here.
Alors, merci. Je suis mademoiselle Alice Gozard. Je viens de la Concertation nationale de la société civile du Togo. Je voudrais joindre ma voix à celle de mes prédécesseurs pour féliciter et remercier Hamzat pour ce qu'il fait au nom des communautés, pour les communautés. Alors, on sent très bien que ce qu'il fait, c'est pour les communautés. Alors, ceci demande un rôle déterminant au niveau même des communautés. Moi, ma question, c'est de savoir comment est-ce que vous faites pour préparer les communautés à pouvoir être impliquées et à vous accompagner durant tout le processus. Merci.
Thank you. There was a hand in the middle here. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Daura Jallo. Follow the Money Gambia. I just want to just give a short comment with regards to our activities on with the Follow the Money Gambia. I just want to make emphasis on the use of social media, because there was a time when we went to a particular village called Dembakunda in the Upper River region of the Gambia. We found out that there are facilities, a structure that has been built by the U.S. Embassy for the community that is actually helping about 16,000 people. But we found out that there are no laboratories, the staff are not there, we just only have structures. When we posted this on the social media, there was this Gambian initiative abroad that helped this community with medical equipment. So this will show you that the power of social media. So if we use the social media the right way, it will actually help our communities where we live. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Shalal, please.
Je remercie également M. Hamza pour le travail qu'il a entrepris, et je crois que c'est un travail de pionnier. Moi, j'ai une question à poser, parce que je considère que c'est un travail où on s'engage, mais qui peut être exploité à d'autres fins par ceux qui ont intérêt à en tirer profit. Je vous demande simplement de dire comment vous avez pu éviter l'instrumentalisation politique de votre travail. Parce que vous travaillez sur des frustrations. Peuple, les gens qui n'ont pas leurs droits, qui n'ont pas... Mais quand on travaille sur des frustrations, il y a des gens qui sont à la guerre pour exploiter, à des fins de pouvoir ou à des fins politiques. Comment vous avez évité cet écueil? Et je crois que c'est le plus important, parce que vous travaillez, vous avez peut-être trouvé une oreille attentive au niveau du gouvernement, c'est une bonne chose, mais est-ce qu'on ne peut pas tenter de surveiller sur ces frustrations pour détourner votre action. Merci.
Thank you, Hamza. Over to you.
Thank you so much for all these interesting questions. First, my sister asked about our funding. And interestingly, in 2013, when we got our first grant, and maybe I would like to tell a story about it because I see there's a lot of young people in the hall. So when I traveled to this community, I didn't tell you how I traveled. It was my mom that gave me money because I was persuasive and I disturbed her a lot. And I remember she gave me about 4,500 that got me to the community and back. And usually when we go to communities, they give us accommodation for free. They even feed us for free. Because when we share with them what we come to do, they see that we're helping amplify their voices. So, and it also helps us create that trust and bond. In 2013, I got an email from the Indigo Trust. Before then, I've never heard about them. And the email said they were coming to Nigeria to meet with civic technology groups, and they would like to meet with us. And they had thought we were based in Lagos. And then Follow the Money was not formalized. It was just a campaign. And on our website, it's just the Save Bagega campaign. And they said they followed our campaign for a while, and they really liked what we're doing. So they came to Abuja, and we had a 2-hour meeting. After the meeting, they sent an email afterwards when they went back to the UK, and they said, we would like to fund your organization. Can you send a proposal? And this is quite useful for young people. So before then, I've never written a proposal before. So I went on Google, and I typed how to write a proposal. So I downloaded a couple of templates, and I wrote a 11-page proposal, and I sent to them. And they responded with one line, please, can you summarize this in 3 pages? And it took me like sleepless night to write 11 pages. So I then summarized in 4 pages. After a couple of weeks, they wrote an email and said, congratulations, we're giving you 9,000 plus pounds to enhance the work that you're doing. Again, as young people, and of course the work that we do, everything is on social media. So there was breaking news, Follow the Money gets grant from UK organization. So it was everywhere, you know, we started getting calls. People want to associate with us because it was successful. And then there was that pressure that, oh, as a young man, you know, just help yourself. And this is corruption speaking. You know, these people are in the UK. They don't know if you use this money well or you won't use it well. There was a lot of peer pressure from people like me saying, you know, we should not use the money appropriately. But then I just smiled and I didn't say anything because usually there's a saying that you cannot tell someone your vision. You have to show them. And in showing them, we used the money to get an office space, a 50 square meter office space. We got internet, we paid for internet, and we used the remaining one to travel to communities. So we were able to do about 5 campaigns with the over 9,000 pounds. And at that time, because we cannot afford an accountant, I remember vividly, every expenses we make, we get a receipt, and I impute it on an Excel sheet. After 1 year, we compiled the report and sent to our donor partners in the UK on what are the impacts, what are the results, and our challenges. And then after a couple of weeks, they responded and they gave us 20,000 pounds without a proposal, just because we also showed transparency in using their money. And today they're giving us 93,000 pounds for 3 years. I just tried to answer your question, how we got money. So we did not follow donors' money. So donors started giving us resources to enhance and expand our work. And now we're being funded by the Open Society Initiative for West Africa, which is OSIWA. MacArthur Foundation is also funding us. Omidia Network, which is now Luminate Group, and one campaign. So one campaign in 2017, we won the one award at the Mo Ibrahim Forum. So it came with a $100,000 grant as the best organization working to actualize the Sustainable Development Goals in Africa. So we got that award, and it was more resources to our work. Today, we have over 50 people on our payroll. We have over 2,000 volunteers, and now it's a Pan-African movement. So we've created a platform called I Follow the Money. And on this platform, we have government people, we have citizens, we have other civil society groups, we even have the academia. So now people do their PhD thesis researching on follow the money models. So we have these people there, and at that platform, what we do is share knowledge and information, where we post findings from communities. Sometimes we get response on the platform from government and activate campaigns with citizens on the platform. And lastly, my sister asked about how do we prepare communities. So sometimes when civil society group go to communities and say, oh, we have grants to implement a project, there's this misconception that community people are illiterate, or they don't, because they're underserved and underprivileged, they don't have knowledge, or they don't know their right. And for us, what has worked is, for every community we go to, as much as we go to empower them, we also learn from them. There's nothing as empowering as local knowledge and local content. So when we go into this community, most time, as much as we say we're empowering communities, we're also getting empowered, because we're also being exposed to learning from the community, learning about their culture, respecting their space, while sharing knowledge and information. And in doing so, one thing that has helped is sleeping in this community, eating their food, and living the kind of life they live. Because for community to open up to you, you must also become part of that community. And becoming part of that community is doing all of these things, so we build that trust and get them to give us information. Because as much as we also give information, we need feedback to enhance government response. So that's how, so politically, and now it's quite a heated political season in my country, because the election is next year. And even when we see the campaigns by the ruling and the opposition, sometimes they also use our content to say, oh, follow the money, because follow the money gave us information and we use budget to do this. While opposition will come and say, oh, follow the money said this, but government has not responded. But the good part is we are non-partisan, and we've built that trust over the years. So we started since 2012 till date, close to 7 years. We've never been involved in any scandal or any political patronage. And we've rejected funding from government, because we told them we cannot accept money from you and follow your money. That's compromising. So we don't accept money from government. We don't engage in any government political activity. And all our members understood that. And we have our code of conduct. So before you join us, you have to sign our code of conduct. So if you do anything outside of what we do, we issue a press release and make sure that we protect the integrity of the organization. But for me, by and large, I think it also has to do with the individual. And when I say the individual, the culture and the person leading the organization. When you do anti-corruption work, you get a lot of people come to want to bribe you, to either keep quiet or just look the other way around. I always tell people you can buy capacity, you can buy competence, but you can never buy credibility. Right. So it's about being credible and true to the work that you do.
Thank you very much. As we wind up, Hamzy, over the last 5 or 6 years, what have been sort of the key lessons that you would like to share with the distinguished audience, but also what's your message to them? Because we have quite a number of eminent people in the audience. What would you like to share with them?
Well, for me, I would say it is possible. It is possible to fight corruption, and it is possible to erase corruption in this continent. All it takes is for us to come together and speak one voice and show some of this progress. A lot of government institutions, individuals, and civil society have done a lot of work. I think we need to help amplify this work, because if we don't share these lessons and these successes, then people will think that we're not making progress. Lastly, I think when we talk about what is the cost of corruption, we need to put a human face to it. A lot of people, and now citizens are so tired that when you say billions of dollars, they just continue with their life. I think we need to simplify it and tie it to how corruption is making young people not get access to employment. Or when you get employment, you're being paid bad wages. It is corruption. Why are young people of this continent leaving the shores of Africa and migrating to Europe and US? It is corruption that is fueling the fact that we don't have a conducive environment and there are no infrastructure. to enhance civic technology growth. So I think we need to put that human face. And lastly, it is possible. And with us joining hands as governments, as private citizens, as politicians, as activists, we can erase corruption in Africa and truly show the world that Africa is a continent that would lead the world into greatness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hamzy. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Hamzy. I think the key point for me really here is that the lessons in fighting corruption, in fighting this vice, exist on the continent, and stories like his show us that it's possible. Thank you, Hamzy.
Thank you very much. Shall we put our hands together for Mr. Hamzy Lawal? And of course, Selemani Kinyuyu for excellent moderation. It's been a long day, and we would like to round up. But just before we do that, I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency, the Commissioner for Political Affairs, Ambassador Minata Samate Sesuma, for our statement. Your Excellency.
Merci, Ibrahim. Ce n'est pas un discours que je veux faire. Je voudrais, à cette heure tardive de la journée, demander qu'on applaudisse tous les panélistes depuis ce matin et également nous applaudir nous-mêmes. Parce que je regarde la salle est pleine depuis le matin. Je voudrais vraiment vous féliciter pour cette assiduité, pour ces brillantes interventions. Cela veut dire que nous pouvons gagner le combat contre la corruption sur le continent. Je vous demande de nous applaudir nous-mêmes. J'ai cru réagir face à certains commentaires concernant francophones, anglophones. Je voudrais vraiment, mesdames et messieurs, qu'on ne rentre pas dans ce débat parce que le français et l'anglais, ce ne sont pas nos langues. J'aurais aimé si on faisait bagarre autour du mandingo, du kiswahili et autres langues. Mais je ne peux m'empêcher de dire que autant on a invité des anglophones, nous avons également invité d'autres langues comme des francophones, des arabophones. J'ai fait vérifier avec mes collaborateurs. On a une liste où toutes les langues étaient représentées. Ce qui s'est posé comme difficulté, il y a certains qui ont eu le biais qui ne sont pas venus. Nous avons également certains qui ont raté leur avion et d'autres qui ont eu des contraintes de dernière minute. C'est ce qui fait que vous n'avez pas vu cet équilibre ici durant nos travaux depuis le début. Et je voudrais aussi dire que nous-mêmes francophones, il y a un des modérateurs qui a signalé que moi-même j'étais francophone. Il faut que nous aussi, francophones, on fasse l'effort aussi de parler le français. Moi, je connais des francophones dans cette salle qui n'ont pas intervenu en français. Et moi-même, je l'ai fait hier, ce n'est pas normal. Donc, c'est un appel que je nous lance pour qu'on puisse avoir cet équilibre. Je voudrais aussi réagir concernant la question des femmes. C'est une question qui nous tient à cœur et particulièrement, et vous comprendrez, moi-même étant une femme, nous tenons vraiment à avoir cet équilibre, surtout qu'au niveau du leadership de la Commission, il y a cette parité homme-femme. On est dans le processus de réforme et cette parité sera respectée. Et on va plus loin, à l'horizon 2025, on veut voir cette parité au niveau des postes de responsabilité de l'Union africaine. Je voudrais féliciter les panélistes et il y a quelque chose qui a retenu mon attention et je souhaite que chacun de nous aille sur le site de l'Union africaine. Il y a une déclaration qui a été faite au sommet de juillet à Nouakchott et qui donne des pistes de recommandations à l'attention de nous tous, que ce soit nos États, les institutions. Et quelque chose qui retient mon attention en écoutant le dernier panéliste, c'est la la question des jeunes. Les jeunes peuvent aider à lutter contre la corruption. Et cela va aussi avec des programmes scolaires. Nous sommes tous ici engagés. Pourquoi on ne pousserait pas pour avoir des programmes au niveau de l'école primaire, des formations, ceux qui sont dans les écoles professionnelles, c'est à ce prix que nous aurons à la base l'Afrique de demain et des personnes qui seront le futur du continent, un continent où on ne parlera plus de corruption. Ce sont les commentaires que j'ai voulu faire à cette en fin de journée, en tenant à féliciter chacun des panélistes, les intervenants et tous les participants. Et je ne saurais oublier aussi mes collaborateurs qui sont au four et au moulin depuis que nous sommes ici à Gaborone. Merci beaucoup et je vous souhaite une bonne soirée.
Merci beaucoup, Madame le Commissaire. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the first French I'm speaking on this platform. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it has been indeed a very long day, but you would all agree with me that we've had a very informative day. Is that right? Would that be a right assessment? Well, we hope that we'll be able to up the ante even more tomorrow as we end this session tomorrow. A few housekeeping announcements just before we go. Because quite a few of our colleagues, and you would understand that because of